Since the calendar and I have turned into the 90s, I have become a member of the Thumb Twiddling Society. Several years ago, when I was inclined to take on more extracurricular jobs that I could do well, I deliberately cut down on my workload. I found that when you can't do a job well, you don't enjoy doing it. There's no satisfaction in doing a poor job. One of the privileges of age is the opportunity to sit back and ponder what you've seen and done over the years. In my 9+ decades, I've formed some views about life and living that I have freely imposed on trusted audiences, both readers and listeners. I have concluded that we were all put on this earth for a purpose. That purpose is to make it, within our capabilities, a better place in which to live. We can do this by painting a picture, writing a poem, building a bridge, protecting the environment, combating prejudice and injustice, providing help to those in need, and in thousands of other ways. The criterion is this: if a man leaves the earth a better place than he found it, then his life has been worthwhile.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus, resilient, highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound.
All right, guys, welcome to Season 2 of the Betterhumanology podcast. Talon and I are here. And if you're wondering, what, Season 2, what are you talking about? We are kind of retooling the show a little bit. We have some new ideas and things that we want to do. I mean, really, the way I look at it is I've always wanted the show to be about doing or challenging you guys to do things. So I like interviewing people. I like talking about what we're doing, but I wanted to get a little bit more structure to actually challenging people to get better, because in all honesty, I think that it's time for the show to evolve. I think it's time to raise the standard and hold people accountable. And that's what this show, that's what Season 2 I want to do. I want it to be your kick in the ass to be better. So if we haven't gotten you there yet, it's Season 2. That's what's going to happen, and that's what we're working on right now. So welcome to Season 2.
Hell yeah. We're not just talking about getting better anymore. It's about challenging. It's about we've already raised up our game. That was Season 1. Like, we're trying to become better. We were working on all these experiments, making ourselves better, talking about how it made us better, how maybe it can make you guys better. Yeah, but now it's time for you guys to actually put these principles to use. We're going to be challenging you guys every week on different things you can do to become better. So I'm excited to be kicking people in the ass. That's my favorite thing to do.
The bar has been raised. No, because in all honesty, I think I was talking to some people about this earlier this week. I do think that my biggest hobby, I know I work out and like do some other stuff, but my biggest hobby, if I had to like categorize it, is just getting better in general. Like, that's what I'm always trying to do. And I would like to, I'd like to challenge other people to come on this journey, like actually like what I'm doing, even if whether good, bad, or indifferent, like let's do it together and see what happens to all of us. So we're going to start here with kind of a new section of the show that we're going to start doing at the beginnings here, calling them the Better Human Bullets, kind of challenges, stuff to get your week started. And we are going to start here with a few different things. First,
so what are Better Human Bullets, though? It's like it's a combination of challenges.
Yeah, it's just we're going to do fitness challenges, mental toughness challenges, and then I'm also going to give you a book recommendation each and every single week, because if you don't know this is something we don't talk about on the show. Something Talon and I thought that maybe we should talk about more is I read a lot. I read a shit ton. And we hardly ever talk about that on the show. I'm reading, I think my books are split thirds in between health and fitness, business, and self-development. So a lot of stuff that could just help people. I broke my record this week with 4 books in 1 week. That was that's my all-time record. And so I'm going to start making some book recommendations, because I try to get recommendations from other people who I think are killing it in life or business or fitness. And, I want to share some of those books with everyone else, challenge you to read them, and let's get better. Let's do this. You know what I'm saying? Let's do something. Let's get better.
I might throw a challenge in there every now and then. Maybe something that I can pull from some of my psychology days that can help us become better in another kind of way as well.
That would excite me greatly.
Yes.
All right, so let's start with one of the first challenges we have for this week. And I am going to start off simple. I said we're raising the bar, but raising the bar is you guys just getting some of this done. I'm going to be doing it too. I've never been the type of person who would ask anyone to do something I'm not doing myself. So fitness challenge, a push-up grid. I want everyone to go out there and try to accomplish a push-up grid this week. We have talked about this on the show. I've talked about it into 3 Fitness. Push-up grid, very simple. Take a piece of paper, draw a grid, and you fill that with push-ups. And it could just be throughout your day. Throughout the day, you just hop down, do push-ups, and you fill this grid, whether it's a 4x4 grid, a 2x2, whatever it is. Try to do one every single day this week. Really simple stuff here. The fitness challenges are going to get a lot harder as we go on, so follow along in this process in Season 2. So get that done. Next, I want to do mental toughness challenges, but, mental toughness can be kind of subjective person to person. And so all I want to challenge anyone to do mental toughness this week is 20 minutes, do something that you can't stand, something that you don't like. And I don't mean that in something that makes you worse, but if you hate doing the dishes, go do the dishes for 20 minutes. If you hate reading, read for 20 minutes. If you hate
push-up grids.
If you hate push-up grids, if you hate going to the DMV and filling out papers, go do something you hate. If you hate, I don't know, just you hate something, do it for 20 solid minutes, and I guarantee that'll push you to be better in some direction, stretching your mind. All right, and moving on to the last bullet here, my book recommendation for the week is going to be, I actually read this book a long time ago, but I want it to be my first recommendation here in Season 2 because I really enjoyed this book. It's called Mozart's Brain and the Fighter Pilot, Unleashing Your Brain's Potential. And, it's really cool. It has a lot of good insights combining neuropsychology with psychiatry and, psychology, all this stuff. This guy, he's a medical doctor. His name is, it's Richard Restak. Really smart dude, wall of degrees, doing a lot of stuff, put together a really great book to really help you in your day-to-day life, just help you with your busy life. He talks about breathing differently, doing things to challenge your brain differently, your mental strengths and your weaknesses, and just a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of actual practical tools. I'm really into practical things, and he gives a lot of practical tools in that book. So that's going to be my book recommendation for this week. As we move along, you might just hop on the books that I'm reading each week because it might be easier, and hey, maybe we could start a little book club, Better Human Book Club. But that's it for the Better Human Bullets. All I got. So fitness challenge, push-up grid, do something you can't stand for 20 minutes, and read the book Mozart's Brain and the Fighter Pilot, Unleashing Your Brain's Potential. That's a great step to becoming a better human being. And we're going to be doing this more regularly on the podcast, but something Tal and I have talked about a lot over the last several months is just sponsors on this show, like advertisers. All this. We've actually had supplement companies reach out to us. We've had apparel companies reach out to us.
So many people.
And we have said no.
Get out of here. We
to most of them. We hate money. Get out of here. But really, the real reason we've said no to a lot of sponsorships and everything is because we just don't. I don't know. You give us money and we talk about something we don't truly believe in. That's not something that I wanted to be a part of. But we recently got hooked up with Audible because a new thing I want to be a part of the show is just reading. We talked about. I read all the damn time, and I think that it makes you a better human. I really think that it does. And so we are officially bringing on our first sponsor. Maybe we don't do it every time. We'll see how it goes. A little trial run here, but if you go to audibletrial.com, so not audible.com, audibletrial.com/betterhuman, you're going to get a free book, and you're going to get 30 days of Audible for free. And that is basically how I do all of my reading. Yeah,
do Audible because, like Jared talked about, you can listen and get smarter while you're doing some of those more brainless things. Like Audible, what we've talked about, is something that you can actually get better at because you're going to learn while you're doing other things. It's a way for you guys to get better. That's why we would take on an affiliate like this. Go to audibletrial.com/betterhuman. So, and for Talents Challenge this week, I want you guys to learn a little bit about yourself. So to do this, it's not going to take you a lot of time, 5-10 minutes. I want you to find someone in your life. Like it could be, a loved one. It can be, one of your children, a spouse, a parent, your best friend. It could be anything like that. And just try to put yourself in their shoes for those 5-10 minutes. Think about how they view you and reflect on that for a little bit. Think about like the strengths and weaknesses they might have for you. That would probably be different than your own. And then after you thought about that for a little while, you're going to gain a little probably insight of yourself, kind of breaking that third dimension out there and just kind of thinking a little bit about how others might think of you, especially a loved one. And then, call them up and confirm it. If you have the opportunity to call them up and say, hey, mom, dad, best friend, wifey, what would you say are my strengths and weaknesses? What would you say, I'm good at, I'm not good at? And then that way you're going to learn a little bit about yourself because you're going to think about what they think of you, and then you're going to confirm it, and then you're going to find out what they actually do. And maybe they're going to line up, maybe they're not. But in the process, hopefully you become a better human a little bit.
Boom. A lot to work on this week, and we haven't even got to the meat of the sode. All right.
Sodes going to be a little longer nowadays, aren't they?
It seems that way. All right, man. So the main topic of today, little method.
I'm so freaking hyped about this topic today.
Yeah, you excited about it?
I'm so hyped.
So the topic is the Wim Hof Method, and the Wim Hof Method. Talon, I think we had this idea. In all honesty, it's probably been like 6-8 months ago, and we're just now getting around to doing the episode. So the Wim Hof Method is. Well, first we should probably talk about who Wim Hof is. So Wim Hof is a human being, and he's done all sorts of cool stuff. He climbed a portion of Everest in just shorts, ran like a marathon in the frozen tundra in shorts, and
negative 20 degrees Celsius or something like that.
Yeah, he holds all sorts of world records for longest sitting in a bucket of ice or this big box.
2 hours almost.
Yeah, it's like a big box of ice. And another thing, the reason he's gaining so much popularity, I'd say, in the health and fitness space is because he did kind of just seem especially if you watch the guy, on YouTube or listen to him in, any of his interviews or whatever, he's pretty eccentric and, sounds a little bit crazy. But now he's got, in recent years, he's gotten science on his side because he's actually had his methods tested through, the scientific method and published in all these journals and textbooks and stuff. So his stuff's legit. It's not really
he's no Chris Angel over here.
Yeah, we're not coming from an approval or disapproval standpoint type thing. It's just a method that we'd like to introduce because it's pretty interesting, the whole Wim Hof in general, but the whole him being tested, they injected him with all of these toxins, right?
Endotoxins, yeah.
Yeah, and he was able to voluntarily control his immune system to not have an autoimmune response to those endotoxins. And why does that matter? It matters because if you can control your immune system, which we did not think that human beings could do, it could cure a lot of problems out there that are autoimmune disorder related. That's why it's such a big deal. For people who might have disorders like that, they may be able to control them through the use of the Wim Hof method. On a smaller scale, though, it's supposed to have a lot of applications for sleeping and stress relief, sports performance, and everything else. So that's kind of Wim Hof in a nutshell. So what did you learn in your research of the Wim Hof method?
Well, what I thought that we didn't have in that little breakdown was the coolest is that he can also, when they tested him, he was also able to increase his own body's adrenaline levels. So that's kind of how he was able to withstand these cold, things with no protection on or, heavy coats or things like that, able to stay under the freezing, water and things like that. Where usually we have to be, we have to have some kind of stimuli, we have to be scared for our adrenaline to really click in, or we have to be, in a fight or flight moment, or we need to be, competing or something like that. Whereas he was able to just use his breathing techniques and his meditation techniques to increase his own adrenaline levels, as well as like you were talking about with, his immune system and things like that. But I was just shocked, and that's what talks about in all the research about, is that all these things that he does we thought were totally involuntary body things. Like your body was just, would take care of these things on its own, where that's not the case, it sounds like, with this guy and what he tries to teach people. My first reaction was, oh my God, Jared, you need to get to this guy's class ASAP. I want to be able to climb Everest in a pair of gym shorts myself.
He's pretty crazy. I do think that reading the research, two things come to mind that you just said. He's able to increase his adrenaline, but they actually compared it to the adrenaline levels compared to like another event that you'd be doing. And they said that his adrenaline levels, while he's laying in bed, he could get his adrenaline levels to that of what someone bungee jumping for the first time, their adrenaline levels.
Right.
Like that's how high he could get his adrenaline levels through voluntary control. And the science does demystify it a little bit, which I do like that, because if you just introduce me to Wim Hof and it's like, okay, he likes to get cold and do some weird breathing stuff, like how is that applicable to me? And the science does kind of show you that he can control his endocrine system, get the like decreased cortisol, increased adrenaline, and all these things, and have these responses. So it's scientifically explained, but like you were saying, we just didn't think that we could do these things as human beings. And I know
and these things that he does. Go ahead.
I was just saying, we've talked about this on the podcast, the fact that I think we both kind of believe that human beings are not at their full potential at all right now, and we may not live to see anywhere close to the full potential of the human being. But to me, that's why this research excites me, because it's like, yes, we have not figured everything out about the human body. Like, study the world, study space, whatever you want to do, but we haven't even figured ourselves out yet, or how much we can control. That's why I think this stuff is kind of crazy.
What do they say? We use like 10% of our brain capacity or 20%, something absolutely ridiculous. So it leaves so much room for things like this, things where he's using some, it talked about how like the connection between the brain body, somewhere back there in the spinal cord, where he was more active in him than other people. And so it seems to me like that's, maybe the next step is trying to find these other areas where we can use greater capacity of our brain.
I do kind of want to break down his method, something that people can try today, because I actually have tried the Wim Hof method, his breathing method. In his whole course, you could go to like wimhofmethod.com. He has like a $200 10-week course. You could go buy that if you wanted to. I have not. I know some people who do the Wim Hof method, kind of got the breakdown, and just want to see. The main reason, in all honesty, I don't want to follow his 10-week course is because he says it takes 60 minutes a day for 10 weeks, and I do not want to devote that kind of time to something like this right now. I'll just be
got too many
honest.
Books to read.
Well, I mean, 60 minutes. This is something I do want to talk about with the Wim Hof method, but not till later. Is it worth doing? Like we talk about a lot of things to get better. Like not everything we talk about we can do.
Sure.
We might experiment with different things, but we can't do everything, or else we have no time in the day. But I'll bring that up later, because I do want to give the breakdown of the breathing method, because I've done this a ton. It's actually really cool. If you remember, go back to the SEAL Fit episode. At the end of SEAL Fit, they brought in like this guru is the only thing I could call him at this point. And we did this crazy breathing exercise, experiment, whatever you want to call it. It was crazy at the end of SEAL Fit. Go back and listen to my SEAL Fit podcast, Talon and I did, and hear about my experience, because it was crazy. And the Wim Hof method, I feel like, is very similar to what I did at SEAL Fit, and it's all kind of getting connected. So real simple. Here's how you break it down. You're going to do 3 sets of 30 to 40 breaths. And how these breaths should be is like a big inhale, and then you just let it go all the way out and then all the way in. And you shouldn't like strain to bring in the breath, but like big breaths. And you don't want to get to hyperventilation either, doing it too quickly or whatever, but just 30 breaths. It's actually going to take you a little while. And then after exhaling on the last breath, so exhale on the last breath, hold your breath for as long as you can. And here's what's very interesting. So your body gets rid of all of the carbon dioxide, and you are like fully oxygenated. And so the first time I did this, so you're doing 3 sets. On set 1, you're completely exhaled here. You've exhaled all of the air out of your lungs. I held my breath for a minute and a half, 90 seconds with no air in my lungs. And I was like, I was pretty impressed. This was the first time I'd done the Wim Hof method. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I did my second set. And then it was like 2 minutes, 15 seconds after the second set. And then closer to 3 minutes by my third set. And so your body reaches this like hyper oxygenated state. And this is one of the things that's supposed to be so important because your body is not in that state very often, and oxygen being in your body is a good thing. And so let me keep breaking down the method. So 30 to 40 breaths after exhaling. On the last breath, hold your breath for as long as you can. And then when you finally need to take that breath after holding your breath, you hold that in for 10 to 15 seconds, and then you just start again. So that's the breakdown. Pretty simple stuff. He does have like the cold therapy in there and kind of some meditation stuff. So cold showers, contrast showers, cold baths, ice baths, and things like that. Which are all things
we haven't done this particular breathing exercise before. I mean, you have, and you've tried it out. But all those things you mentioned, like cold showers, cold exposure, meditating, these are all things we've done on the show before. So it's not like we're talking about some kind of space alien crazy new concept. A lot of these things are things you guys have already heard from us that he's just combining together.
Yeah, that's why I mainly wanted to bring up his breathing method, because we did some box breathing. We did a box breathing episode, but box breathing is very different. Box breathing is just controlled breathing. And same with kind of meditation. This specific breathing method that I just told everyone, you are going to feel different. Like, your physiology will feel different when you're doing this. You'll feel different after your first set. And, like, I get all tingly. My face feels weird. It's like, it's a different feeling, especially by the third one. Like, you're feeling kind of crazy. It's very, very interesting.
Like a euphoric feeling?
Yeah, because that's essentially what you're getting to within this hyper-oxygenated state. It's like a euphoric feeling. Obviously, holding your breath, I think that it's pretty impressive, because I didn't even think that I could hold my breath close to 3 minutes, and like I did it after my first time in the Wim Hof method. Yeah. And I do it from time to time, like just if I have trouble sleeping sometimes, which isn't all the time, I'll do the Wim Hof method, and I honestly feel like I can breathe easier, and I don't feel like I have any troubles breathing at any point in my normal day to day. But I feel like I just don't need to breathe that much, and I just feel so relaxed. So I will say that it's definitely a win there. If it's helping me performance-wise or anything like that, I don't know. I'm not making a habit out of the Wim Hof method. I just think it's kind of interesting, mainly because this, like I said, this eccentric guru now has science back behind him, which is awesome, and I just think that the whole thing is very intriguing.
So instead of like he's winning, he's whimming.
I took a drink of water. I would have totally laughed at that if I wasn't having some water.
There's all kind of benefits, I think, that we didn't really break down all the way that this stuff does for you. One, you kind of already mentioned it, like it's going to help people sleep. We say here, sleep like a baby, but like you said, you feel like when you do it when you're having problems with sleep, you feel like you don't need oxygen, as much. So your body is probably less tense looking for that oxygen, and probably can move on to this next thing, which is probably to sleep at that point of the day. Reduce inflammation. Talk to me about that one.
So inflammation, this inflammation is behind a lot of problems that we have in health today. So if your muscles or joints are inflamed, that's why you're in pain, and that could be from eating grains, it could be from your diet, it could be from anything. That's why a strict paleo autoimmune disorder type diet, like that's what they're attacking when you do something like the paleo diet. And the reason they do work for certain autoimmune disorders is because it's reducing all the inflammation. And that's obviously a huge pro and something that this method claims to do.
And boundless energy levels. I can see he's used this kind of technique while he's exercising or right before he's exercising. So it seems to me like he's found ways to prepare your body almost for what you're about to do, rather than, stretching might only do by itself or something like that. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
And that's what I haven't made a habit of this, so I can't bust any of them. I do think that because some of these were pulled from his more or less like sales page, and so I'm being honest here. I think that the science behind him have not proven all of these. But
Right.
I do see how they work, because if you want to connect oxygen to some of these things and being in this hyper oxygenated state, yeah, I can help you in a lot of different ways. But what's cool about doing the method, I told you, like holding your breath longer, and he has you do advanced things like doing sets of push-ups while holding your breath and stuff like that to see how many you can do. And he kind of, it's his way of like proving to you like his method is working. I guess there are people who, I think he puts that into his method because a lot of people were doubting what he did. But I mean, if you have the science behind you now, you don't need to do that as much. But something you can do is go to Walgreens and buy a pulse ox, pulse oximeter. It measures your pulse and your oxygen levels. Put it on your finger.
Right.
See what you're at right now. And if you're not at like 100% or 99 or whatever, say you're at 96, then do this method and then take your pulse ox, like do the 3 to 4 sets of the 30 to 40 breaths, and it's like instantaneous. You're going to see that your oxygen levels have increased. And while that's simple to do and simple to understand, you're going to also realize how much better you actually feel after you've done something like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Seems to make sense to me. The next three, I'll take. I feel like the next three he says you'll feel more creative, reduce your stress level, and your mood will improve. And to me, that makes sense because it kind of goes in line with some of the things we talked about just with meditation and breathing, like box breathing in general. Because you're to do this kind of exercise, you're going to be focused on your breathing. You're going to be focused on things that aren't the outside world. You're going to kind of clear your mind, and that in itself, we talked about a lot of times in season 1. Right, will give you the opportunity to find more creativity, improve your mood because you're not focused on maybe the negative things that are bothering you. You're focused just on the here and now, and improving your breathing and feeling your body, and all that by itself takes down your stress level as well. I'm sure that euphoric feeling you get probably takes the stress level down a little bit too.
That's what I would say. Like some of them probably just connect. It's like, yeah, it's like, whoa. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that breathing, there's no doubt in my mind that controlling your breath and being more mindful, deeper belly breathing, things like that reduce stress. And that's something in the book, that was the first place I ever heard to breathe that way. Like, don't breathe like short and in your chest, breathe, through your stomach and take deeper breaths, was in that book that I recommended at the beginning of the podcast, Mozart's Brain and the Fighter Pilot. He actually talks about that in that book, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes in line with a lot of things we talked about, and it's not a large step away. So, I mean, there might be some people out there, some other guys out there that are using some of the concepts we've talked about in the show, combining several of these and getting some of the same benefits that he talks about already right here with what he offers. Recover faster, burn fat, and enhance athletic performance.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that kind of goes with what you brought up earlier. I mean, if you're getting more oxygen to your body, some of these things might, dictate what happens next.
Well, I mean, we did the cold thermogenesis experiment. That was very beginning. So his full method, with meditation, the cold exposure, and the breathing, yes, recover faster, burn fat. Probably those claims come from cold thermogenesis, brown fat, being able to burn fat, all that other stuff that we covered in the cold thermogenesis podcast. I mean, being cold is good for you. We have, I think, beat that.
Yeah, we improved it
more than a few times. I've honestly I'm like at past a year of cold showers myself now. Like I do cold showers.
Strictly cold showers, nothing else.
No, I mean I'll do contrast showers, but I'm saying there hasn't been a day that I don't get in the shower and turn the water to cold. Like I always do cold. Cold now. It's just part of me taking a shower, and it's also not like it's not a thing anymore. It's not really like a challenge anymore. I mean, it is. Let me backtrack on that. Summertime in Texas, the water can't get as cold as I can handle. That's what I'll say. I have to like do an ice bath if I want to get really cold because the pipes. I don't know. Pipes are just warmer in Texas. Not as deep. I ran into that same problem when I lived in Florida. I need to move to a colder climate if I want to be cold all the time. All right, man. So let's talk about the method in general. Do you think this is kind of, in all honesty, a discussion topic? Everyone knows what the Wim Hof Method is now. We've given them the breathing method. They can go do that. It's already approved by science. who are we to say approved or disapproved? But the one thing that I do want to talk about, and it's just kind of about the Better Humanology podcast in general, is if we're bringing new ideas to the table every week for you to get better, so it's 52 weeks in a year, are you able to add 52 things to your life to get better? I mean, the answer is no, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that you can do everything that we suggest to you, and I don't think that means any single one is a bad or good suggestion. It just means you have to find what works for you. And or it could just be a tool in the toolbox that you use sometimes.
Right.
Like, I don't want to make Wim Hof Method. The big why is not clicking with me in Wim Hof. I understand the immune thing. I understand the reduced stress. Yep, it can help me sleep sometimes. But adding it to my daily routine, sometimes if you are, like, I'm heavily involved in the health and fitness space, and sometimes I feel like a lot of stuff is just fads. They're just faddish. Like, and Wim Hof is kind of that way. He's been on, like, everyone's podcast. He's been on, like, news stations and, like, everything, so everyone's all about the Wim Hof Method. But a year from now, 6 months from now, people probably won't know as much about Wim Hof or be focused on it. But his method can be a tool that you put in your toolbox to accomplish some of these things. Like I said, it helps me sleep from time to time if I'm struggling with that, but that
seems like the most obvious, one people would use it for. Because to me, I don't know when the last time I fell into, a frozen river was, a frozen lake, some frozen pond, something like that. I don't know when the last time I tried to climb a mountain in gym shorts or something. I know I'd like to do those things. It'd be fun. It'd be a great challenge for my mental toughness, but
right.
I haven't found an application for myself when going over the Wim Hof method. So I agree. It's not something that, I'll probably put in my tool belt every week, because the breathing sounds great, the meditation's great, but I do a lot of these things already in different kinds of ways that aren't kind of the Wim Hof method, and I find benefits to them in my own way. And I think the Wim Hof method is a fantastic way. Maybe if you live like way in the northern hemisphere, like way up there, like in Alaska or something like that, you're trying to survive. But for the day-to-day blue collar guy, other guy just trying to get better, I don't know that's going to be your number one go-to.
When I first heard that you could voluntarily control your immune system, I got interested because I don't like to be sick ever. And so I was like, well, cool. Let me look into this method. But I don't know. I think that even though he's figured something out, it's still very raw. He basically knows how to spike some hormones and, different responses, but you can't, like, control your immune system so much right now to say, like, because if you could pinpoint and control your immune system, that's things like cancer don't exist. That's things like, I'm getting a common cold, right. I'm just going to do the Wim Hof method and not get the common cold. But the bigger thing, like, if you have a really good immune system and you had cancer and you could, like, laser point, like, okay, we're going to fight it, with my immune system, that's a big deal. Maybe humans are capable of that, but not yet. So I do think the Wim Hof method is really cool, but I don't think it has, like, an immune application to the day-to-day. Maybe if you have an autoimmune response, like you could, or an autoimmune disorder, should I say, maybe it's something you can try. All right, dude.
Yeah, he says himself in there that more research is necessary, that more testing is necessary, and I think what you brought up is perfect. Like, there is immense potential and the ability to control our own immune system, our own adrenaline, things like that. But I think he's just hitting the cusp of it. I think there's more time that's necessary, and like he brought up, like I just mentioned, more research necessary before we can jump on the bandwagon and say this is something everybody needs to be doing every day to try and be able to control their body, voluntarily.
But definitely give it a try. Do the breathing. It's really maybe have someone around your first time, just in case you accidentally hyperventilate or pass out or something. But give it a try. It's fun. It's worth it. I
want to see what that euphoria is like. What you get from it?
Oh, you'll like it, man. You'll like it. It's good. Makes me feel good inside. It is. I mean, it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Over here getting a natural high. I mean, all right. So, new part here, season 2.
Right.
We'd like to just continue our conversation further and deeper about other things. So we covered Wim Hof get it, try it. We put our challenges at the beginning, but now we kind of want to cover some other topics. Really just that we want to talk about. Talon and I talk about a lot of stuff all the time for very long periods of time, and we feel like we should just record it sometimes. I think that these topics are awesome, and I know everyone else is going to love them as well. If not, then just don't listen to us.
Yeah. Gosh, we go on some of the most amazing discussions, and I swear every time it's definitely off the record. Usually, every time it's these deep philosophical discussions just about how humans can be better, how we can be better, how we can, make others better. It's good stuff. So that's part of what we wanted to bring. We said new things, better things were coming, in the future, and here it is, second season. We're going to start, breaking down a little bit more discussion and talking about some other concepts that we haven't brought to you guys yet.
And we're starting with...
We kind of mentioned it earlier because you are this reader that finds somehow, and you're busy, making everybody better from, top to bottom. Somehow you find a way to read like 4 books this week. That's a good example. So I think finding time to get better is that first topic we want to talk about today.
Yeah.
How do you find time to get better, Jared?
In all honesty, so if you read the book The One Thing, there's this whole section there about how like multitasking is bullshit and you should never multitask because it's bad for you and your brain shouldn't switch. And yeah, I kind of believe that, but not really. I believe that to the point where you shouldn't like sit in your office and try to work on like 2 different things at once. Yeah, obviously not being focused is going to make you very bad at something. But how I specifically find time to do things is multitasking. Like the book thing, like let's talk about that specifically. Like books for me are primarily audiobooks. Like from time to time I will grab a book and read it, but I primarily do audiobooks. And a standard audiobook, can be anywhere from the 3+ hour range to the 8 and 12 and 14 hour range. So there's a lot of time in audiobooks depending on what you're reading. And so what I challenged myself to do this week was not put any time aside for reading a book. There's not like, hey, this is my reading time. All I was going to do was read a book during the times I was doing something else, and I feel like I could manage listening to a book. So that was working out, which we've talked about before. We had a whole podcast on that. So listening to books while I work out.
How difficult it was to do.
Yeah, and it's difficult, but I've been getting a lot better at it. So listening to books while I work out, listening to books anytime I'm in the car, anytime I'm walking anywhere, if I'm doing grocery shopping, if I'm doing anything that can be relatively mindless. Like I don't care if I'm super concentrated on grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Especially if I have a list. I'm there to execute a mission. If I'm going to be there for an hour, might as well listen to a book in the process. And same with driving. And, working out does shift. Like I can do strength training pretty easily with listening to a book, but if I need to go there, like I've never listened to a book during Murph. Like I can't do that. But everywhere else I can. And then step 2, the secret, just book-wise, not necessarily time-wise, because there aren't many ways in your life you can do something twice as fast. But with a audiobook, you can listen to it on 2x speed. So I listen to all of the books that I listen to at 2x. So the guy is obviously talking a lot faster and very fast, and you do have to pay attention a little bit more, but it doubles how much you can learn. And there aren't many, like I said, there's not many places you can do that in your life. You can't double anything just by like pressing a button, but you can there. I can double my learning time by reading a book twice as fast, having someone read it to me 2 times as fast. And that took some working up to. You have to do like 1.25 speed, 1.5 speed. And now I'm at 2 speed. It's fine. I think I can go faster, but it does, depending on the book, it gets ridiculous if they go any faster.
So are you still comprehending everything at 2 times speed?
Well, see, that's why I said I had to work up to it, because at first, when I was like, I want to do 2x speed books, I just went straight from 1 to 2 and was like, nope, that book was like, I missed the whole book. This is a while back. I've been working on it for a while. This is a while back. And I was like, no, yeah, I don't think I could remember anything from that book. And I listened to the whole thing on 2x, thought I was like comprehending stuff, and I was like, nah, you didn't get anything out of that. So I had to gradually increase my listening speed to where now, unless it's something super technical, yes, I can comprehend it at 2 times speed. But if I was to read a book on philosophy or read a book kind of in like the strength training space, like the science and practice of strength training, something that's like real. Like if you're going to be talking about equations and all this other crap, like I'm not going to be able to listen to it 2x. But if it's like business or self-improvement or anything like that, yeah, I can listen to that 2x, no problem. So there, you're finding time by doubling your time. You double your time.
I gotta say, wow, I did not expect to hear that at all. That's probably definitely a secret like tip for how to get some of those books knocked out that you do, because it makes sense to me. The more you do something, the better you get at it. I mean, I totally get that. For me though, my gosh, I don't find time that way. I'm not able to find time that way. For me, I'm probably the worst multitasker on the face of the planet. I mean, I'm the guy that's, if I'm thinking about something, I'm almost lost to the world around me a little bit while I'm thinking about it. And the wifey would be like, hey, did you hear me? I just asked a question, or you didn't respond to me there. So for me, it's definitely not that way. That's impressive, and I hope that more people are like you and not like me in that sense.
Like I said, that book, The One Thing, he brings up like a lot of different studies and reasons why human beings are not meant to multitask, and we should not do it. But I think, like I said, if you're going grocery shopping, who cares if, like, what would happen is maybe you grab the wrong apple, but you're still listening to a book. Who cares? You still got apples. You know what I mean? Like you got the non-organic instead of the organic. Oops. That.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I don't listen to books like when I'm chilling in bed with Emily or playing with my kids, or, I don't grab every moment that I can.
Right.
But I just challenge myself this week specifically, and that's how I knocked out 4, was like, I would not allow myself a moment of like chilling,
like wasted time.
I would not waste time. Like if you are not doing something specific, like if you're not working on something on your computer, if you're not engaging with another human being, if there's a moment in time, you have headphones and you're listening to a book, and 4 books accomplished. I don't know how many hours worth that is listened to, and I don't think it's some huge accomplishment. I just think that people have a lot more time than they think that they do, and that was kind of what I challenged myself to this week. I'm also a little bit more tired this week than I normally am.
Well, to me, it sounds like more like using your time wisely. I think multitasking is definitely in there. I know I'm a big hater of multitasking. I'm probably falling more in line with the guy who wrote the One Thing. I did a research on an article back in the day about how multitasking is so bad for you and how it increases the gray matter in your brain and stuff, because people are just multitasking like crazy nowadays. I mean, it's like I'm talking on the phone, hopefully not while you're driving, while trying to tell the kid to calm down in the back seat, while trying to change the radio station, or you're on the computer, you're trying to message somebody at the same time as you read something, as listen to a video on YouTube, or just all kinds of stuff. I know the world's gone crazy with multitasking. It sounds like you found a way to do multitasking, a smarter way to do multitasking when you're doing things that are almost mindless anyway.
Well, the other reason I'm not necessarily opposed to multitasking is kind of what you just brought up, is everything that you just mentioned is exactly like flying an airplane. So that's what pilots are doing. That's what, when I was in pilot training, that's what we were being trained to do, is there are so many tasks. Like you're talking on the radio, you have throttle in one hand, the stick in the other, you're checking all of your instruments, you're looking around, you're literally doing 1,000 different things. You're pulling this dial, that dial, and we don't crash that much. And by we, I mean the United States Air Force. They don't crash planes that often. Yes, plane crashes happen, but if you're talking about in the grand scheme of things, they don't mess up that much. They are highly trained multitaskers. So maybe it takes a certain level of precision and dedication to become a good multitasker. But that's part of the reason I'm not necessarily opposed to it. That's because that's what always comes up when I think of multitasking, was I was basically, when I was in pilot training, being trained to be a really badass multitasker,
Right, yeah.
And so, it's got to be possible. Whether or not it's good for you, I don't know. But I could see being at work. I know if I'm working on something, I can't, don't bother me. 1, because it'll probably piss me off. 2, like I can't be bothered because it will screw me up. Like it'll screw me up. My work won't be as good as I won't get it done as fast. And I know if I am like really deep into something and my concentration gets broken, it's hard for me to get back in that space. So I understand the multitasking argument when you're trying to do something like really productive.
And it might just be how I was trained. Intel guys are told to, look at this problem and then analyze it. And so the analytical brain's got to really spend time. It's got to really spend energy on each little specific minute detail. And so for me, I think I was already like that. I was already that crazy guy that was just spending so much time focusing on working out every little detail. And so for me, when I'm lost in thought, I'm analyzing more so than just, mindlessly going through things. So that's probably why for me it's a little different. The way I find time is I really prioritize. I know I'm not a scheduled kind of guy. I'm not a routine kind of guy, but it's like planning out almost before you go to bed at night that day before. It's just kind of thinking about, okay, what are the things I really want to either get better at or do the next day? What are the things I really want to accomplish the next day? And then prioritizing what to me, I feel like I really need to do the most. And so I feel like those things I put at the top of the ladder, maybe a couple of rungs below, spend time with the family, are the things I end up doing the foremost. I end up doing first, and I make sure they get done. I make time for them because those are the things I really want to do. So though I don't spend, maybe instead of spending 20 minutes chilling, I'm probably going to spend 10 minutes chilling because I really want to do this exercise I told everybody that they should be doing this week because I want to do it as well. These are the kind of things that's how it works out for me. That's how I build my create time for myself.
And you've said it multiple times, make time. And I think that's people need to catch themselves more often and say make time as opposed to I don't have the time. Because I don't have the time is just really I don't want to, which is fine. Like you might not want to do something, and that's perfectly fine as long as you admit it. That's what I think. I know people would be like, I don't have the time to do that. And it's like, well, like let's get out a pen and paper and see like what kind of time you actually have. No one wants to do that. They don't want to be audited. But if you did,
you probably do.
I would not enjoy.
Did you plan like every minute to the minute when we were in college, like one semester or something like that?
That's only if things got really busy. I would break my life down into just like 30-minute increments, which is not that crazy. That's not.
No,
crazy.
It's not crazy at all.
That's what people do, right? That's what everyone does.
Like 48 blocks. So this is what I'm gonna do for the very next day. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So making time versus just I don't have the time. We're all busy. We all have commitments, and so just pick what you want to work on. Make time for that. If you don't want to work on something, say I don't. We've talked about this before, right? I don't do that, or I don't want to do that, as opposed to I don't have the time. Because if you say I don't have the time, maybe that's
an
just
excuse you can use forever. You'll never get better because you'll be armored. You'll be shielded by that excuse forever.
At times, though, maybe it's just a nice way to say that to other people. Be like, hey, can you do this for me? Like, I just really don't have the time for that. As opposed to, no, I do not want to do that, and I don't do that. So
that's probably a good excuse for other people. But for yourself, you got to be true to yourself.
Yeah, just don't say to yourself.
Right?
If you're ever telling yourself you don't have time, yeah, right. Change the narrative. Change the story. All right.
Yeah, right. You make time. It's mentality. Yeah. We got to move on.
All right, dude. Another thing I wanted to talk about, I know you want to talk about, we want to talk about, is passion in general. I'm very passionate about becoming better, passionate about this podcast, passionate about things. So let's break it down, man. How do you feel about passion?
I think I'm a pretty passionate guy. Maybe I don't always bring the passion every time we hop on the podcast, but I'm real passionate about betterhumanology, getting better, being better as myself, helping others get better. Passionate about you, my man, Jared. I'm just passionate about everything. So for me, I really want to talk about this topic because I think I'm making a shift a little bit in my life to really follow my passions more than maybe my brain, following my logic, maybe following my heart a little more instead of following my brain. Because I feel like there was a quote I pulled up earlier, it's a Confucius quote, and I hope I don't butcher this too bad, but it's like the man that finds a job that he loves will never have to work another day in his life. And that's really what everybody wants, right? I think everybody wants to do something they love, and they want to go to work or hop on, their .com and work on whatever they're doing and enjoy what they're doing. And they want to have generally be happy in life, right? And so they want to enjoy what they're doing. And so for me, I think I want to take that next step and, maybe follow my own advice a little bit, and start following my passions a little bit more.
This is something I see in the generations below ours, in an epic way. They're not all necessarily following their passions because maybe they don't know how to exactly, but I feel like they all want to be they want their work to be what they love. And that's a good desire, but that also comes with the negative side of the entitlement that we have with some younger people, of just being like thinking that you don't deserve to work on your passion unless you earn to work on your passion. That's how I feel about it. I do think that everyone should be able to, but I don't think it should be handed to you. Just because you love to do something doesn't mean that, okay, yeah, you get to do that. Because if there's got to be work involved somewhere along the lines. And that comes from a lot of me working the Into 3 Fitness side hustle for three solid years in the military. And, knowing that was my passion, hoping, dreaming, wishing, and working, to try and follow my passion. So I think that it's important. It's important to follow your passion. I think it makes you a lot happier, which comes down to being better, right?
Right.
That's a huge part of being better in general.
I would totally agree. But I think my take on the, you gotta earn that is, if whatever your passion is, if you get the opportunity to do it, or you have the opportunity right now and you're not doing it, then you're not really passionate about it.
Right.
Then that's not really what you would love to be doing. There's something else. You're still holding back somewhere in your subconscious. It's like, no, I'd still rather be doing yada yada or whatever. Somehow you're still holding, you're selling yourself short if you're trying to accomplish something and you're just not putting the effort there.
And I'm not talking about I don't think that everyone needs to have a job that is their passion, and necessarily.
Sure.
I think that people should just follow their passions in whatever capacity that is. Just make sure that you're doing it. Not necessarily like that's your full time. Like if you love mountain biking on the weekends and you want to, like, maybe you have no desire though to like open a mountain bike shop. Like I'm not saying like it needs to become your business or something like that. That was just my specific example. But if you're the type of person who's like, I went mountain biking once, it was badass, I love it, I want to do it all the time, but I can't because I do this on the weekends. I go to Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot, don't know if I have enough time type situation, no, find time, do it.
If you're going to Bed Bath & Beyond every weekend, then you need to get control of your life, because your wife or somebody's making sure that you're not having control.
That was an old school quote. You know the quote. Come on. I'm gonna have to clip that in here.
Absolutely. I agree. It's not. I brought up the example about me because that's what I'm dealing with right now. Is my job, trying to find getting to what I love and what I'm passionate about. But absolutely, that applies to every aspect of life. If it's a hobby that you love doing, and that that doesn't get in the way of what you do for a living or how you survive. Following your passion doesn't necessarily mean quit your job right now and do what you love. Because if what you love is working out and getting better, or what you love is meditating and becoming more mindful, then you can do both of those things and still have a job that maybe you don't love. Because the reality is not a good portion of society doesn't love what they do. That's why we're increasing minimum wage, right? Yeah.
That's exactly why we're increasing minimum wage. To make people more passionate, actually. I think that's
right.
What
yeah, we're trying to. Can you do that? Can you instill passionate people by just giving them more money?
No, that's what people with no money think, and then they find out that that's not true.
Right.
But
well, this isn't. Yeah, we don't go down the political road, I guess. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think you have to discover what that is for yourself internally. It's not about how many dollars are put into your hand after you finish what you do. It's about what you feel like after you finish what you do. How much fulfillment you gain from whatever activity or occupation, whatever it is that you do.
I mean, if following your passion was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So
Right.
it's going to be a challenge, but it's worth it. All right, guys, in closing out the first episode of season 2, thank you for listening to the Better Humanology podcast. We know that you want to be better, and that you're gonna pick up the gauntlet that we've thrown down, right? And I'm gonna be doing these things myself. We got 4 things this week, right? So we got a fitness challenge. Do a push-up grid every single day. I explained what a push-up grid is at the beginning of the episode. Do that. Do something you don't like for 20 minutes, whether that's read a book, whether that's hold the plank position, whether that is the push-up grid, whether that is do the dishes, whether that is answer email, whether that is whatever you don't like. Do something that's going to annoy your mental self until you get better. And then my last recommendation challenge this week, if you want to hop on my book club bandwagon, would be to read Mozart's Brain and the Fighter Pilot, Unleashing Your Brain's Potential. And Talon?
And my challenge this week is to find someone you love. Think about them. Think about how they think about you. Put yourself in their shoes. 5 to 10 minutes, easy. Think about what they might think your strengths and weaknesses are, and just reflect on it for a little while. And then give them a call and see what they say those strengths and weaknesses are. See if they match up. See if they confirm what you thought, or see if they're different, and learn a little bit more about yourself. Become better.
All right, guys, let us know what you think of the new format, the longer episodes, and give us some feedback if you really like the show. Head over onto iTunes. Hit us up with that 5-star review and a positive comment. And until next week.
Thanks.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.